by just reminding people the historic nature of your town. And let's start with the building we're in right here.
Sure thing. We're sitting in the historic Pelzer Gym, which was built 100 years ago this year in 1922. And if you think about it, this gym has served many purposes. We're sitting in the lobby. Not many gyms have a lobby. And behind me is the gym. There's a fireplace, of course, behind me. In here, the teenagers back in the day had pool tables they used to play on. And underneath the gym is a pool, which served the town, the kids, for many, many years. And they said it was extremely cold and burned your eyes with all the chlorine in it. But when we had a Pelzer High School, this was the Pelzer High School gym. And many famous athletes have played in this gym. Folks around here remember the name Earl Wooten. The Highway 20 out here is named after him as well, Earl Wooten Highway, a famous basketball player who got his start here in Pelzer. And also a lady named Eki Jordan, who played for some professional teams and has her jersey apparently hanging in the Smithsonian. And this gym was named for them in their honor. So this has been a place that folks have gathered for 100 years. And now we are in the process of trying to figure out what comes next for this building. We want to restore it fully. This is one of 3 historic buildings that the town of Pelzer owns, and we have plans putting them in place to start working on these buildings and saving them. You mentioned Pelzer as a historic town. It certainly is. It was built, a true mill town, built for the mill right down there on the river, and they started in 1881. And everything around here was constructed for the mill workers and the mill itself. So there were a lot of buildings all around us. This place was full. It was packed and full of life and activity. And the humming of the mill and the whistle of the mill is what you heard year-round, except on the week of the 4th of July.
And that property is an important key to the future here of some of these things. Remind people what's going on that property.
The lower mill property, we see that as a very important part, a vital part of our future. It was donated to a nonprofit called the Pelzer Heritage Commission, who then worked with some folks, very helpful folks in Columbia, to secure some EPA cleanup grants to clean up the land. It was an abandoned pallet shop at one time, and they cleaned it all up, and now it is ready for development. It is a prime site. It is right on Highway 8, which becomes 418, which I call the real Southern Connector. You can probably hear the trucks and cars coming by all day and all night right now. And it's right on the Saluda River, right at that beautiful dam, right there. And we're excited to see what's going to happen there. There are some plans in place, and there are many interested parties. We'd like to see some residential, along with a combination of retail. And what we'd really like to see are restaurants. Pelzer's ready for some new restaurants. I know that patrons at my community theater up the road at the Pelzer Auditorium would really love to have that, but that would really benefit the town in major ways. We want to make Pelzer a destination.
And one restaurant's been announced already, right?
That's right. One restaurant is for sure coming. I'm not sure exactly when that's supposed to start breaking ground. Good friends of mine who are expanding their business from Brooklyn down here to Pelzer. It will be called Daleview Biscuits and Beer. And they have purchased the old office administration building to the mill, and they're going to restore it. So again, we're taking something old and giving it new life. And that's the most exciting part, Greg, is that we're not going to tear down any more buildings. We're not going to sit around and do nothing and just let things be neglected and fall into disrepair. It's time to reinvest. It's time to say, okay, it's time to rebuild. It's time to refurbish. It's time to renovate. Pelzer's next chapter is here, and it's now. So let's get busy.
What are the other two historic buildings?
The other two historic buildings are the hospital, which is right up the road down here, right across the parking lot from this gym. Everyone knows it as the hospital because I believe it served as a hospital longer than it served as anything else, and many Pelzerites were born there. Originally, it was built in 1895 and called the Lyceum, which is basically a fancy word for a library. And the president of the mill, Captain Smythe, he valued education, and he provided a fully stocked library, newspapers from all over the world. There were night classes and lectures. So it was a center of education first, and then it became a hospital, and then it was the Pelzer Rescue Squad before they went to their larger building on Highway 20 in the 90s. So since the 90s, it has been abandoned. It is still in good shape because everything they built in the 1800s was well crafted. And it's got a lot of different rooms. And our plan for that building is to save it, to fully restore it, and to let that be our new Pelzer Town Hall, where all municipal services take place. It's got a large room in the front that used to be, I'm assuming, the waiting room in the hospital, which would be great for a council chamber and a future municipal court. It's got a great place for a conference room and offices, also archives. I want to take one of the rooms and devote it to keeping and maintaining our history. I'd love to work with the Pelzer Heritage Commission on that, to let them use a room and to preserve the information recorded about our history, the pictures, the stories, the articles, because that's who we are. If you neglect your history, you neglect yourself. Now, the other building that we are looking at restoring is the old community building in the Monkey Park. I'm not sure when it was built, but a picture that we found is dated 1910, when it was originally an open-air skating rink. It did have the same roof, and it did have the same floor, and they decided to close it in, and it was many different things, but now it's the community building. I have been in touch with folks with some sort of historical society in Columbia to check to see if these buildings can qualify to be on the National Register, which I think they will be eventually. But the community building, we would like to fully renovate it, but also bring it into the 21st century with handicap accessible amenities, new bathrooms, but we wanted to make it a very appealing venue so that can be a source of revenue as well for the town of Pelzer. And we'd like to rebrand it as Pelzer Hall. It is a medium-sized space. It will have a full kitchen, an outside deck, a small stage, storage, and these are all, of course, dreams, but I think they're going to happen. And we've got the know-how, the connections, and a little bit of money to get started, but we just got to get everybody on board and get the support for that project. I think that's the first one. Community building, then hospital, then gym.
And you've already done a lot of work in the park over there, Monkey Park.
You know, I love the Monkey Park, and we're excited because, you know, we've got spring coming. We've got the Easter egg hunt sponsored by the Church of God next month. And we're looking at new playground equipment. We're looking at possibly looking into a master plan. I would love to have a new master plan for the Monkey Park, the Bill Hopkins Sports Complex, the hillsides beside the Monkey Park, and that field on Highway 20. So that whole area will have an overall plan. I think that's very important. It was not included in our town-wide master plan, Because, you know, we can have an idea and say, oh, let's stick a picnic shelter somewhere out there. Oh, let's stick a fire pit here randomly. But if you've got a huge plan, full drawings, and you know what this is going to look like in 10 years, why not have that set in place so that when you say, let's build a picnic shelter, you know where it needs to go exactly in relationship to what's coming after. So it's all unified and connected and part of a greater picture for the monkey park. I want to make the monkey park a true destination. Someone said on Facebook that it was boring, and that kind of hurt my feelings a little bit. So it also inspired me to do more. We want to make it a place that is unique. That's the word we got to use, Greg. Everything we do in Pelzer has to be one of a kind. Has to be. Because as we were talking about earlier, we're seeing urban sprawl happening all over the upstate of South Carolina. Homes going up, and every fast food franchise you can imagine. I mean, it's everywhere. And we want to retain our identity that is one of a kind and unique, because if you want to be a destination town, you have to offer something you can't find anywhere else.
So we're moving into spring. What are some of the things going on here in Pelzer people need to know about?
Folks in Pelzer and elsewhere need to know that we're about to engage with a very big change for everybody here. The biggest change that we've seen in a very long time. What I'm talking about is the sewer system and the water system. We are in talks to get out of that business as a town and to sell, first of all, our sewer system to REWA. We have some public hearing coming up, 1st of April, and some extra meetings planned to move that forward. And we're excited about that. We're also excited about potentially selling the water system to Greenville Water. It's not a done deal. Nothing has been voted on, but I can share that we are discussing the possibility. Now, what I like about that is that our water lines are very old and corroded. We do experience a lot of leaks randomly. They seem to happen on Friday afternoon every week. Right when we're about to leave for the weekend. But also we've got about 75 hydrants that need to be replaced that were installed in the 40s and 50s, and that's like $10,000 a piece. So Greenville Water is willing to take on the responsibility of updating our system. And also, the best thing for residents is we are more than likely going to see a noticeable drop in the cost of your water bill. Pelzer has high water bills. That's the main complaint. It's the one thing everybody wants to change. Now, there is a reason for that, Greg, and I am going to talk about it today. And the thing is that our bills that we send to residents have water, sewer, trash, which we get a great deal on with GFL. But we're also paying off that major loan that we took out to update the sewer system. But we also have some town fees put into that bill to run the town. Because we don't have taxes, Greg, and we're not allowed to. What? How can you not be allowed to have town taxes? How do you pay for anything? Well, that's a great question, because our sister town, West Pelzer, has taxes. Williamston has taxes. Every municipality in the county has taxes, I think, except for Star, maybe. Someone told me to start it and have them either. So why can't you have them? That doesn't make any sense. We're not looking to have major taxes. We just want to have some to fund the town, what we do. So if we switch over to these systems, we'll have a new bill, and it will come from Greenville Water. And so that municipal fee disappears. And so we're trying to figure out how we can survive if we make this big change. We want better services. We want a cheaper bill for residents, many of whom can't afford the ones right now. We want that. But why can't we have taxes? I'll tell you why. Act 388. Write it down. Ask questions about it. Research it. Act 388. Act 388. The General Assembly created a law which didn't mean to do this, but the reality of it is that it happened. From everything I've been told and researched is that it changed the way schools are funded from property taxes to sales tax. Okay? But written into that law is a cap on millage, and the wording is such that if you have zero taxes, you cannot raise that by any percentage. And like, you know, any percentage of zero is going to be zero. So that law forbids us from having taxes. Of course, I've asked every year for that law to be amended, for there to be a bill to amend it. Apparently, you know, 1 year before the pandemic, things were going well. It was passed in the Senate to amend it because it also affects many towns across the state, such as Edgefield. And then it died in the House. And every year, nothing happens. So no one is taking up this cause. And so it harms little towns like Pelzer and elsewhere, because you can't run a town and pay for things if you don't have any revenue. Now, we've got some other sources from like franchise fees and the Municipal Association of South Carolina. We are going to start business licenses next year. We've never had them. We don't have a lot of businesses in Pelzer, but we hope that that will help us. We do have a lot of landlords in Pelzer. Around half of our homes are rentals, and so hopefully this can also help us keep our landlords accountable for their properties. And so we're hoping that revenue is going to balance things out, but we really have no idea. We've never done it before. That's going to start in 2023, which is what we were told we had to wait to do. So the big question, Greg, is how do we modernize how we run things? Like I said before, bring things in the 21st century, get out of the water and sewer business, where we only have 2 employees who are dedicated to run and maintain and fix problems with these town-wide systems. Let's bring in these companies that have greater resources and greater manpower to fix these problems anytime, day or night. And also, even better, to lower those water bills for our residents, many of whom just don't have that extra money to pay for something like that. So that's the big challenge. That's what we're trying to figure out. How do we make that switch and still have enough revenue to fund the town and pay for the things that we offer, our amenities and our assets and our employees? We have a lot of green space, and one day when we have our town-wide trail system along the Saluda River, 3 miles of riverfront trail system, somebody's got to maintain it. We can't just have a volunteer Saturday cleanup every once in a while. You know, that's going to be a big draw for destination status.
I want to talk about that in a second. Before we leave it, the act you're talking about is also putting many schools in a bind and leaving them without the funding. They're talking about having to cut positions and other things just to survive because of the way that's worded. But the other thing is, how important, when you're talking about moving sewer, how important is sewer capacity to growth? I mean, for a town to have enough sewer capacity for growth to bring in more people, you need a lot more sewer capacity, right? I mean, at least the plans for it.
Right. So we have seen more activity in residential construction currently than we have, honestly, since the late 1800s. And a lot of developers, contractors, home builders are talking with us, and part of making that happen is to figure out how do we get water and sewer to those locations if they are not directly on a repurposed lot. And so we are trying to figure out how that works. And I'm learning a lot of new things that I never knew I would learn about sewer and water. It's very interesting and very helpful for me to get my head wrapped around all of that. But yes, when these new businesses come in, and let's say if we have 95 apartments come in all at once, whoo boy, that's going to be a job, right? And for a little old tiny mill town like Pelzer with no taxes and only 2 maintenance workers devoted to that, how in the world are we going to handle that, Greg? How in the world? So I think this is all coming at a good, opportune time. If you look at a map of Pelzer, it's obvious to anyone that the place for us to grow in terms of residential is south. If you look at the town map, south of us, there are available tracts of land for residential. Beautiful, beautiful land. I think your brother actually lives beside one of those. Gorgeous piece, got a creek running through there. I said, boy, you got a good one. And he said, oh yeah, I know. So that leads me to another big project that we're working on. I've mentioned it before, but Pelzer owns a big chunk of that land south of us, about 120 acres, that we all call the Lagoon property. And why do we call it the Lagoon? Well, back in the day before we had a sewer system, or an updated sewer system, the mill let all of our waste drain into 2 ponds out there. We call them the poop ponds. Fortunately, we don't do that anymore. It started out with dumping into the river, then into ponds, and then, treating and transporting the right way, thank goodness. So that area is basically a giant open field with some very green pine trees growing on it for obvious reasons, but the surrounding acreage is this gorgeous, pristine woods with hills that go up and down, beautiful topography right on the river. And we were exploring the other day and we found this gorgeous waterfall. Seriously, I felt like I was hiking at Table Rock. It's these little hidden nooks and crannies. You don't even realize you're in Pelzer. It's an escape. And so we know that that is the future of our growth. We also want to maintain public access to the trail system that we have as part of our master plan. But the thing is that, and I've told this story 1,000 times, so I won't bore you with it again. Basically, to sum it all up, most of the lagoon property is designated as a park through the National Park Service. A town cannot sell a park unless you find land elsewhere that is of equal or greater value that you can switch the designation with to open up the lagoon property for smart development for Pelzer. And that's what I'm trying to do. It's funny because there seems to be, yes, there's a finite amount of available land in Pelzer. We are a small town of like 1,400 people, but there seems to be the exact amount of land that I need to make this happen. So, some of it we've purchased, some of it was gifted to us, and I continue to reach out to those who own the large pieces and get them on board with the overall big picture vision of why this is important. So that's going to take some time, because once I have achieved that big parks conversion switch, to make that happen through the National Park Service takes a minimum of about 2 years. So we're laying the groundwork for some big changes coming up in terms of growth. Growth is happening in West Pelzer and Williamston. Houses are going up, or plans for houses as well, all over the place. And this school district is definitely going to feel that impact. You know, we just finished building 2 brand new middle schools, and it needed to happen. But how in the world are we going to keep up with all this growth, especially in Powdersville? Whew, man. I mean, I feel for the folks at the district office, because, I mean, there's only so much you can do without having to go back to portables. I mean, who knows? There may be a new high school in the next 10 years. I mean, it is exciting. It really is. But the 2 things I worry about when we talk about growth is, I don't want to change the identity of Pelzer. I love Pelzer. We all love Pelzer. We don't want to have such a drastic change that we no longer recognize it. So everything we do needs to be inspired by what's here and what was here. And the second thing is that I get worried about is, you know, we have one shot at this. So let's do the smart thing and the best thing for Pelzer. You know, we can't demand that these new homes be exactly what we would love to have. We can encourage it. You know, we have a brand new planning commission. We're going to form a zoning commission to have a say in how that growth happens. But the last thing we want is to just clear cut our forest and have a bunch of row houses with no distinction or uniqueness. And that's not what we're going for. So I hope that whatever we do is going to fit into what we have here in Pelzer. And I'm excited for the growth, but let's make sure we do it the right way.
Has there been any discussion about annexation, adding to? I know y'all had a big annexation a few years ago.
Yeah, darn Skippy. Pelzer, since 1950, what is it, 2 or 3, was about only 4 streets since incorporation in the early 50s. And they said that the reason for that is because the mill was still operating in its heyday, and the folks who ran the mills lived on those 4 streets, and they wanted to retain control, power, I don't know. So that continued up until about 2015, when we had a referendum and voted for mass annexation of the upper and lower mill villages, which finally completed the town and opened up a lot of new things to the residents. You know, they could run for office, they could have a say in what actually happens here instead of just the folks who live on those 4 main streets. So you asked me, are we going to annex anything else? We are in the process of annexing the new Pine Lawn Cemetery that's adjacent to the town limits, right behind the Church of God, and probably the old Pine Lawn Cemetery, which is across the road from it. There are 2 pine lawns, because we pay for dedicated police coverage from Anderson County Sheriff's Office, extra coverage, dedicated coverage. And like many towns, we've had some vandalism in our cemeteries, and that is unacceptable and disgusting. Spray paint, knocking over headstones. And so if they're part of the town, we don't own them, we're not maintaining them, They're just within the town limits. So we can ask our dedicated officers, please go patrol that area as well. And that's the only reason for that. Plus, they're Pelzer cemeteries. Why shouldn't they be in the town? So that's going to happen more than likely. And in terms of anything else being annexed, there is future development, again, south, which is directly adjacent to us, and will probably be a part of the town one day. So that's good. And now's the time to try to get a piece of Pelzer, because we ain't got no taxes or business licenses. Jump in, the water's warm.
Well, speaking of the water, the other thing you mentioned there was you're part of the Saluda River. That seems to be a growing attraction to this area, the Saluda River. Talk a little bit about Pelzer and your Saluda River, your piece of the Saluda River.
Our piece of the Saluda River is so beautiful, and it's so easy to forget about. We drive over rivers. Rivers in the past have been a dumping ground, but now everybody's realizing if you've got a river, you've got potential gold mine in many senses. I mean, you remember when the Reedy River flowing through downtown Greenville was nasty, and nobody went down there. And they built a bridge over the birthplace of the city, over the falls. And, folks just drove over it, didn't think about it. Until finally there was some visionaries who said, this is a gold mine, like I said. And they created a true destination. Now, of course, that Liberty Bridge, the pedestrian bridge, is on every postcard image for Greenville when they make the top 10 list of every top 10 list in the country. And that's why everybody's moving here. So the river has finally gotten some attention. And Anderson County is also in support of this, and you're hearing about the new things that are happening at Dolly Cooper Park in Powdersville, and now our good friends in Piedmont, right up the river, are getting some attention too. They're going to have a new park area that the county has purchased for them. So it's all part of the Saluda River Blue Way, where you can start up in Powdersville and travel all the way down beyond Pelzer one day. Kayaks mostly, some canoes, but it's so funny because you get caught up in the daily activity of life, and then if you choose to just go over there and explore a little bit and walk around, you find these gorgeous, scenic, idyllic places and these moments of solitude. You think, it's so nice to escape to nature. And I don't have to drive 45 minutes to find it. It's literally there, right? And as we talk about planning for the trail system, I have been doing my own personal exploring and walking around these riverfront properties. We're very lucky because it's primarily owned by 3 entities: Town of Pelzer, Pelzer Heritage Commission, and the Hydro Company, Central Rivers. And I walked down there behind the world famous turkey ring, and I could not believe it, Greg. I was like, oh my gosh, it's so beautiful here. It reminds me of what Falls Park used to be in the 90s before they redid it. You know, mature trees, beautiful open grassy area right on the river, and a view of our own falls. You know, the waterfall coming down the dam right there. I thought, man, this is the spot. Come out here, have a picnic, and throw a football with your kids or whatever. So we want to bring attention to that. You know, in the past, Pelzer, unfortunately, like many communities, small communities in the upstate, it has gained some undeserved reputation, you know. We might be the butt of some jokes in the past, but we're going to change all that. We're going to be known for different things.
When Timmerman was the first of the ADA launches.
That's right.
Talking about the blue
And
line.
that's right, Timmerman kayak
Pelzer,
launch
yeah.
in Pelzer. And it is used a lot. And it's a partnership between us and the county. I would like to see some maintenance and new work done in that area. When I went over there and inspected it, I noticed there's some erosion happening at the ramp. I'd like to address the platform, the deck out there is starting to lean and sink. There has been some vandalism down there and on some signs. And I did some, our maintenance staff is so busy all the time that I was like, I think I can help out here. So I did some YouTube research on how to get rid of spray paint off of signs, right? And I went out and bought a bunch of materials, and there was also some spray paint on a tree down there at Timmerman. And I thought, I gotta get rid of this. How do I do this? And turns out you get one of those wire brush attachments to a drill, and you just sand it off. But then I was using some different solvents, and let me tell you what, lacquer thinner, it will take spray paint off a stop sign. It will also take the red off that same sign.
You shouldn't be confessing to that. You heard that.
So I was like, hey, this is really working here. Oh dear, working too good. Okay, time for a new stop sign, I guess. Whoops, live and learn.
That recreation and quality of living, and we always would be remiss if you didn't mention, one of the keystones with the Midtown Players here. Tell people how that's going and what's going on with that.
Greg, I always appreciate it when you ask me about Midtown Players. I'm put on a different hat now. I'm no longer mayor. I'm the executive artistic director of Midtown Players. Two separate entities, not the same.
It's in Pelzer.
It's in Pelzer. It is. And golly, there's so much going on, Greg. We've just announced our brand new season for Pelzer. And we're going to start referring to it as not Midtown Players anymore. I mean, it's still the same company, but we're going to push historic Pelzer Auditorium. We got a new logo for it. Why are we doing that? Because we are expanding to Simpsonville. At the Simpsonville Arts Center, brand new, newly renovated place that used to be another old auditorium for a school. And Simpsonville has really rolled out the red carpet for us, buddy. They have purchased all the bells and whistles and given us all the support we could ever imagine. And we are ready to give them also a full season of shows. So, Lord have mercy. I got double the trouble, baby. I got 2 seasons.
Will they share any shows?
No, sir.
Totally different.
Totally different. We're going to have 6 shows in Pelzer and 6 separate shows in Simpsonville. Here in Pelzer, we're going to focus on the same types of shows that people have come to know and love. I'm going to tell you what they are in a second. And then in Simpsonville, we decided to specialize in youth and family shows. So you'll have the same quality, affordable entertainment and live theater experiences there, but it'll have a different focus. And so here in Pelzer,
Which will be the first full season in a while.
First full season, you mean in Simpsonville?
No, back here because of COVID. You're finally coming back without any interruptions. Hopefully.
I'm so thankful for that. We started off with a bang this past year with Steel Magnolias, and oh man, I thought, this is how it's going to be. This is great. Everybody's showing up. Everybody loves this. And then the variants came, and attendance went straight down. And then, of course, the Christmas show. We had to cancel the whole thing because I had 5 members of our group get COVID. So finally, we're crawling out of that dark spot into what's coming next, which I think is going to be our next hit to get us out of this slump, which is a themed concert of beach music from the 1960s called Under the Boardwalk. And we're in the middle of that. It's going to open next month on April 15, run for 3 weekends through May the 1st. There's no show on Easter Sunday. So don't show up thinking you're going to see Under the Boardwalk, because you ain't. And this has a live band. Many people in the band work at local universities like SWU, and our performers are excellent, and they're also local. So we went over some choreography last night. Golly, these songs are so good. Sitting on the dock of the bay, my girl, a little bit of soap, up on the roof, stay, by Maurice and the Zodiacs. I mean, it just keeps on going. The Drifters, man, it's awesome. I mean, it's the best music. So you got to come see it. I mean, it's just going to be great. And we've got this beautiful set. We're getting like a double level boardwalk. We're painting a beautiful scene at the beach inspired directly from Myrtle Beach. We've got a giant vintage Myrtle Beach postcard we put on the back wall. I just ordered some costumes last night, and they're inspired by the groups that sang these songs. And it's just going to be a trip back in time to some of the best popular American music ever written. And I cannot wait. So anyway, we got that. The new season that starts in the fall, we'll start with Pelzer, because that's where we are and that's what we're talking about.
The one in April, there's nothing else after that between that?
There is. Well, directly after Under the Boardwalk comes, excuse me.
Start over with that whole sentence.
Jeez. Okay. Directly after Under the Boardwalk comes a one-weekend concert that has been an annual event for us. It's called the Pelzer Gospel Homecoming. It is the weekend of Mother's Day, and it runs just for that one weekend. And we're putting together plans for that, and we encourage you to come see it, because this might be the last time we ever do it. Why is that? Well, because we have another new venue in town in Pelzer, the Levy Street Wedding Venue in the old Pelzer Presbyterian Church, and they are offering gospel concerts as well. So we're not going to compete with them. There's no need to do that. We have plenty of other things to do. So we support them. We welcome that venue. And that's great. We'll help each other out. After Pelzer Gospel Homecoming comes a hilarious and ridiculous Southern comedy set in Texas. It is the sequel to last fall's The Red Velvet Cake War. It is called Rex's Exes. Of course it is. And I am directing that, and I cannot wait to get started. We've got some returning actors from the previous show and some brand new actors. If you didn't see Red Velvet, it doesn't matter. You don't have to see that to enjoy this one. Come on, see Rex's Exes. Hilarious Southern comedy. You can't beat it. And then after that, we're doing a show about Hank Williams Sr. called Lost Highway. It is a musical biography of his life and his music. We have a young man who will be impersonating Hank Williams Sr., playing guitar and singing his songs. We'll have actors who play instruments, and you'll be hearing most of his hits in that musical biography live. And I don't know about you, but I love Hank Sr. I love real country music. And I can't wait to bring that to life. And I think our people are going to enjoy that too. And the last thing we've got for this season is another annual thing that we do. It's a one weekend concert called Classic Country, which is perfect. We'll do it on the set of Hank Williams, the Hank Williams Show. And we're probably going to focus more on some of the classic female country artists. We've not done that a lot in the past, and I think it's time that we do that. So classic country, this might be one of the last times we do that too, as we shift to our next season of 6 shows. We're going to focus on those the 6-show season, and we might perhaps do a competition show. We talked about Romeo and Juliet in the past and how that went all the way to nationals in 2019. Well, it's been a few years, and we'd like to get back into that circuit because it's It's a lot of fun. You get a lot of feedback from outside this community, and it's also a source of pride for us and our patrons. So we're very excited about what's coming up. Now through August, it's just going to be nonstop. So really, get your tickets, because we've got a brand new HVAC system. It's no longer going to be hot in there in the summertime, and we are ready to have some fun.
Well, the Midtown Players have attracted a lot of, like you said, attention from the Upstate that Pelzer might not otherwise have. People wouldn't have come here if it hadn't been for that. Am I right?
That's right. You know, nowadays when you go out into the greater Upstate community and you say Pelzer, a lot of people say, oh yeah, that's where we go see plays. And that makes me, of course, extremely proud. And it amazes me, Greg, how I can look at the reports from a show and see where people are coming from. A lot of folks have the misconception that we're just serving our tri-town area, and we are. But the majority of people who come see our shows live 30 minutes away or more. We even have people coming down on a regular basis from Hendersonville, Asheville, Columbia, Hartwell, Georgia, you know? And it's crazy to think about it. And that's going to continue, because right beside us is the former mill president's home, Captain Smythe, which has been purchased. And it's probably going to be turning into a bed and breakfast. So you can come spend the night next door to the theater, walk to the theater, and then have a really good breakfast, you know, the next morning. They're talking about doing reservation-only Sunday brunches over there. So, you know, it's only going to grow. Prior to the pandemic, we were at like 33,000 per year in attendance, which makes us one of the most attended locally producing theaters in the whole state. And it's hard to imagine that that's actually happening here. I mean, I've always said that greatness can happen anywhere. And I have a lot of good friends who are really great at what they do and are super talented. And we bring all those people together and do what we love. And we work really hard. We spend a lot of money. I mean, folks don't realize that when we put on a show, it costs us about $25,000 to $30,000 just for that one production. And I'm paying everybody except for the actors. That's what basically defines a community theater. The actors volunteer their time. We don't pay ushers, we don't pay crew, but everybody else is getting a check, Greg. So this is also, you know, a jobs thing. We employ a lot of theater artists and musicians. I talked about under the Boardwalk, there's 8 musicians up there getting paid for rehearsals and shows to give them part of their livelihood and share their talents. We love that. I'm proud to pay artists. You kidding me? Love it. So yeah, it's only going to grow, and we're doing things now to get ready for that growth. We got a huge gift from the state of South Carolina to finally have our own lighting infrastructure and lighting instruments. We've been renting for 8 years. Renting. Just throwing that money away. And it's cost us like $19,000 per year in rental in some years. So that's going to be some savings for us, but also we will have that system ready to go by this summer. We're also having to build a new light booth in the balcony. That's a big change. We had it designed to look just like the architecture on the inside of the auditorium, which is also over 100 years old, to preserve the historical integrity of what we're adding in there. We're also working on our scene shop, bringing that up to date, creating more space. I put up a fundraiser yesterday to help us build a new paint deck so that we can paint on a large open wooden deck outside, because as we grow, we're going to need more space to create our scenery. And right now we're pretty cramped. So we're doing things to reorganize and open up and have better efficient use of the spaces that we do have. So you're going to see a lot of new changes. I mean, we just updated the house lights with LED. I walked inside the auditorium the other day and I was like, something is different. It's brighter in here, right? So that's exciting too. You're going to see a lot of improvements at the Pelzer Auditorium.
I know you could talk about Midtown Players all day.
I sure could.
But let's get back to, is there anything else going on in Pelzer you wanted to make sure we talked about?
Yes, I do. So something else that's going to be seen as a big improvement and change in Pelzer is that our council is going to get together and decide how to spend our money from the government for COVID relief. I have done my research to find out what is approved to spend that money on. We are getting the second half of that coming up, but the first half we're going to put into our budget for the new fiscal year, and it's significant. It's over $300,000. That's a lot of money for a small town. So we want to make sure that we spend that in a very slow, smart, deliberate way, to not waste it, to prioritize to our needs first, and not get excited and spend it on something that we're don't need yet. So we've not yet met, so I can't tell you what that's going to be, but I am of the opinion that I would love to pave our roads that have not been paved in a long time. Some of them are in rough shape and crumbling, and I want to pave the roads. I want to fix the sidewalks, and this directly affects all residents. We do have a number of roads that are labeled as state roads that you would not imagine to be state roads, and that is a whole different ballgame. So when we annexed everything, we now have two things: town roads and state roads. There's no more county roads. So we've got to work with DOT to figure out what we can do to update those and work on our infrastructure. And I think that's going to be, of course, very noticeable and something that our residents are really going to appreciate. So, I mean, if I can say at the end of this year that we've lowered your water bill and paved your street and given you a new light in a dark spot, we have done our job. And that's what we're doing. We're getting more lights. We're working with Duke Energy and inspecting every single street in Pelzer and seeing where we can add some more light to brighten those dark spots and make our streets even safer. So that's what I'm excited about. Now, I'm not going to promise you when it's all going to happen, because I know you'll hold it against me. but do rest assured that things are going in place to make this happen, and we're seeing money in the town that we have not seen in a very long time.
You and the mayors of West Pelzer and Williamston kind of get together pretty regularly. Are there any other projects y'all are still working on or planning out for the future?
You know, Blake, Rocky, and I are in continual contact. We call each other all the time about different things, and I might call Rocky and say, hey, I saw this over here. What's going on over here? Tell me about that. Or I might call Blake and say, Blake, I need some advice on this. How does this work? And, we're good buddies, and it's the first time in memory that, we are actively working together. And so I try to keep in touch with them and keep informed about what their goals are and what they're doing, because anything that's good for Pelzer is good for West Pelzer and also Williamston. And the same is true for them. We are 3 towns, but we are one community, and we have to think that way. So we're not in competition with each other. Blake and I have friendly competition on things just for fun. He's a good buddy, but we like to tease each other and try to one-up each other sometimes just for fun. But, it's important that we all work together. And one thing that we keep talking about is linking physically the three towns with a trail system. Now I know that Williamston is already working on theirs. They're ahead of the game. We've got plans. And West Pelzer doesn't have as much green space as Pelzer does. I think Pelzer's going to end up having a lot of green space, like way more than both of the other towns. So it's a good thing we bought a new lawnmower recently. But how cool would it be to get on your bike or go for a run, get on a trail, and go anywhere you wanted, all over town, down to the river, up to maybe go eat at Baby Sumo, West Pelzer, get on your bike and ride on down to the spring park down there, play on those new pickleball courts. Pickleball, what is that? Everybody wants it though. But Williamston's getting them. They're getting that, they're getting all high class and bougie down there, getting those pickleball courts. So, but imagine if all of this is connected through a wide, well-used, well-maintained trail system. I mean, man, that would be something.
Be a model system for...
People would come to us and see how we did it. Now, the thing we got to do is come up with a good name that's easy to remember. And it might be different names for the different towns, or it might be one single name, I don't know. But it's easy to remember Swamp Rabbit. It's easy to remember Doodle, you know. And those are connected to the trains that they turned the rails into the trails from. But we didn't have a cool name for our train. So we can't do that. It was like, I don't even know, like Greenville, Piedmont, or Southern, or something boring like that. Or now it's CSX, you know, that's no good. So we need to pick something, and we can't really call it the Palmetto Trail because there's already something that has that name. So we'll figure it out. Contest for a name.
Yeah.
But my goal, of course, is to have the best trail system in the Upstate. So we're going to be looking to see what they do elsewhere and steal their good ideas and improve on things that we see improvement on. But you know, a lot of folks in Pelzer aren't quite ready for the idea of a walking trail or lots of parks. But you know, sometimes you just got to see it and experience it. See it with your eyes and touch it with your hands before you realize how cool it is and how much it's going to improve our quality of life and our health, and also, again, to promote Pelzer as a destination place.